Shalom, shalom. This video is about the Gospel of John chapter 21 verses 15 to 19. And it's about Kefa Simon Peter's third statement that he loved YESHUA. I'll read the text for you. When they had finished breakfast, YESHUA said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said to him. "You know that I love you." YESHUA then said to Peter, "Feed my lambs." YESHUA said to Kefa Simon Peter again a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." YESHUA said to him, "Take care of my sheep." YESHUA then said a third time to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And Peter was aggrieved because he said to him for a third time, "Do you love me?" And then he said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." YESHUA said to him, "Feed my sheep." "Amen, amen, I tell you," YESHUA continued, "when you were younger, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and carry you where you do not want to go." Now this is said to indicate by what kind of death Peter was going to glorify God. And after this, YESHUA said to him, "Follow me." So YESHUA asked Kefa Simon Peter 3 times if he loved him, each time cancelling one of the 3 times that Kefa Simon Peter denied him, which we can read in John chapter 18 verse 15 to 27. So we are considering each one of those times on its own, and this video is the third of the 3. Back in John chapter 13 verse 38, at the Last Supper, Kefa Simon Peter said that he will lay down his life for Adonai YESHUA. And this is the reason why we read these doom and gloom verses about Kefa Simon Peter's future at the end above, because Kefa Simon Peter was kept to the promise he made to lay down his life for YESHUA, even though he did not know what he said at the time. So we should be careful what we promise to God. At the Last Supper, YESHUA warned him that he will deny 3 times that he knew him. Within the next few hours after his bravado statement, "I'll lay down my life for you," before the rooster crowed, just hours later, Kefa Simon Peter did exactly that YESHUA warned him he will do. He chickened out. And he chickened out a 3rd time immediately after his second denial, when a relative of Malchus, the slave of the high priest, whose ear was cut off by Kefa Simon Peter in Gethsemane, when the mob arrested YESHUA, this relative of Malchus said that he saw Kefa Simon Peter, he saw what he did, because he was there. He was an eyewitness against Kefa Simon Peter's denials that he knew YESHUA. And then at that moment, or just after that moment, the rooster, gever in Hebrew, crowed. And the rooster, de facto, were asking Kefa Simon Peter where his gavura, his strength, his bravado was, even his manliness. Gavura means strength, manliness, power, and that is derived from gever, the Hebrew name for a rooster. Kefa Simon Peter was reminded of this when YESHUA asked him a 3rd time if he loved him. The memory aggrieved him, and that is why he prayed, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." He acknowledged that YESHUA knew how that night after the Last Supper played out. I'm sure that you have been exposed to how the Greek text changed the word. Each time YESHUA asked, "Do you love me?" the Greeks changing the word from agapas, which is agape love, for the first 2 times, to philais or phileo, in YESHUA's 3rd question, if Kefa Simon Peter loved him. So, because I'm sure you would have heard sermons about this before, I'm not going to bore you with a repeat. YESHUA answered him with the instruction just to feed his sheep. So this 3rd reply from YESHUA combines the first and the second, as "feed my lambs and take care of my sheep, comes together as feed my sheep. YESHUA, who had just fed the 7 disciples on the beach with fish and bread for breakfast, yes, YESHUA, who actually is the bread of life, who will become a gushing spring inside people who drink from him, who taught us that we must eat his flesh and drink his blood, now said to Kefa Simon Peter to feed him to his flock. And Kefa Simon Peter had to do this by spreading the gospel far and wide. And that is why the original disciples, except for Judah from Keriot, of course, took the gospel to the nations. They all were the apostles to the Gentiles, but they didn't do the PR and they did not seek the title as Paul did when he went years after them. YESHUA then said to Kefa Simon Peter that when he is old, the Romans will drag him away to be crucified in Rome. And YESHUA meant follow me, literally on the beach by come walk with me, but he also referred to the crucifixion road. This was acceptance of Kefa Simon Peter's bold statement at the Last Supper that he will lay down his life for YESHUA. He did. All of the disciples did. Not one of them floated away wrapped in cotton wool, as popular modern theology would have us believe will happen before the tribulation comes. We should look for the patterns in the scriptures and discern the lies. The question is whether we end-time believers will have the strength, the gevura, the roosterness of Kefa Simon Peter when we are called to lay down our lives. If you do, like many believers in Africa bordering on the Sahara do, or like followers of YESHUA in Islamic countries do, then your reward will be great. You know, great in heaven, but also great here on earth, in this life too, as YESHUA will raise those believers to rule with him for 1,000 years. It's a big promise in the Bible. The momentary anguish of getting martyred for our faith gets rewarded with 1,000 years of restored life and then forevermore thereafter. So we should really envy those faithful people who gets to be martyred for their faith in YESHUA, the Jewish Messiah. We have to trust Adonai that he will give us the strength and resolve in the moment that we need it. And then he will do so. And with that, I hope there's some food to ponder on for you. And I wish you shalom, shalom.